companies involved in the export of ragonite out of Ocean Key. One of the companies is called CaCO3, calcium carbonate, that's the chemical name. The next one is U.S. Industries. The next company is situated in Missouri, which is the company that breaks down the ragonite crystal into its bare elements. And they ship it to 36 different states for distribution in the pharmaceutical, in the agricultural industry, in the technology industry. And guess what? You know the place called Silicon Valley? The heartbeat of American entrepreneurial productivity and technology? Well, this is the main element that is driving new industrial experimentation in Silicon Valley. Well, the interesting thing about those three companies, they're owned by the same family. Paul Myers is the president of Ocean Key Limited. Jason Myers, his son, is the importer, and they use that triangle to keep down what they pay to the Bahamas government. Jason Myers' father, Paul, is a shareholder in U.S. Ragonite Industries. Now they have a third company called Oceanite, which is the reserve company of U.S. Industries, Ragonite Industries. That company, as on the internet, the fact that they are maintaining a reserve of 1 billion tons of aragonite. 1 billion tons of aragonite in the Bahamas. The world is moving rapidly towards a new technological plateau, and there are two elements which will drive the next stage of technology. And those two elements are aragonite and graphite. The only country in the world that has a superabundance of aragonite is the Bahamas. That's why the Chinese are here. The other country is Peru. Peru has an abundance of graphite. Aragonite, in addition to being calcium carbonate, aragonite is an alloy. It strengthens a metal. It makes steel stronger than steel. It strengthens other metals. In fact, when you look at plastic, it makes plastic strong as steel. And in the space industry, you notice recently America has now restarted its exploration of space. The metal that is required to help the space industry is aragonite. All of your technology now, your cell phones, your computers, your disk drives, your softwares are now experimenting with solar cells. They are producing solar cells the size of 6 or 8 inches, can run your house for a year. And that aragonite is coming from the Bahamas. The Bahamas is the only place in the world where this mineral is being produced by nature itself. It's what they call a God element. And from 1942, when the U.S. Museum of Modern Science did the survey on Bahamian minerals, the U.S. government knew. The British government knew. And we have been misled and miseducated. All three of our governments have led us down the garden path. They have followed the policy of deficit spending and deliberately and maliciously keeping the Bahamian people undereducated, underemployed, and in poverty. Because their view is, as long as we keep them this way, we can rule them. We don't need to be in this kind of situation. The Bahamian is supposed to be one of the richest persons on earth because our resources put us in that position. It is just that those who have been in charge of us have not only deceived us but abused our loyalty and our trust to run this game against us. Fellow Bahamians, In 1942, we stood up. 6 of us died, but we stood up. 1958, we stood up. 1962, we stood up. 1973, we stood up and we formed a sovereign democratic nation. We had to stand up again and defend the vision embedded in our Constitution. We do not have to follow the WTO. We do not have to follow the Chinese. We follow what is in our Constitution, and we put our nation back to where it ought to be, following our Creator, lifting up our heads to the rising sun, and so conduct ourselves so that when you read Isaiah and the mandate in Isaiah that the abundance of wealth in the seas of the isles belong to those people who have traveled across the Atlantic, worked in the fields in the Americas, and emerged as sovereign citizens in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, where the resources that God put here for us must be used to develop a sovereign people, free and independent.
This has been another production of Solution Radio, 533-2862.